And then we learned also about Vux and Hoi. So first I'm just going to refresh, and then we'll go over our homework for those of us that did do it. Make sure you are getting caught up on your homework if you didn't do it. So graph and align when we have a table. So they'll give us an equation, and we have to find our values for our table. So just pick 0, a negative x, and a positive x. And then all we're doing is we're just simply taking this value and putting it in for x. Let me go to number 3 here, because there's actually some work for it here. So remember, f of x is the same thing as y, so the same thing as y equals. So I chose x is 0, so I put in 0 for x. And then I solve for y, and I got y is 3. So that's one of my points. Plot that point. Chose -1 for x, so I take -1, put it in for x. Simplify it, I get y is 1. So the point -1, 1. Plot that. And likewise for 1. So take 1, put it in for x. That's this guy here. Simplify, I got y is 5, so the point 1, 5. We only need 2 points per line, but it's better to do 3 just in case you accidentally made a mistake. Then you'll catch it. But we talked about how we can actually use your calculator to help us get the graph. The table. So I want to refresh your memory with that. So everyone should have a calculator in their possession now. So in order to get your table, you have to first put the equation here in your y equals. So you want to go ahead and locate that y equals button. Hit the y equals. Let me pull it up on mine. And if you're like in the table and you're trying to get out, you have to hit second mode. It says quit in blue above it. So that's how you get out of it. Okay. So I go to y equals. And then I'm just going to type in my equation there. To clear out your equation, just hit clear. I'm going to type it back in. Maybe 3x plus 19. Once you have your equation typed in, then we go and we want table. So I'm going to do the blue button, second, table. And it gives you your x and y values. Now remember, we need to have 0, a negative, and a positive for x. So you can pick which values you want, but I want 0, a negative, and a positive. So once you get your table, then you can just go and copy that down to your own table and plot those points. What's that? Which is table, so you want to hit on your calculator. Above graph, it says table in blue, so you want to hit the blue button and then graph. And it'll give you that table. Now remember, in order to put in your calculator, we have to have it in y equals. So like this example here, we had to first get it y equals. So sometimes it might be easier just to plug in the points. Sometimes it might be easier to solve for y equals. It's up to you. And then for all of our lines, our domain and range, there's x belonging to real numbers, y belonging to real numbers. So that's going to be your answer for your domain range for all of our lines that we're doing for this unit. Okay, so that was our tables. And then we talked about using our x and y intercepts. So our x and y intercepts is simply taking our zeros and putting in for x, and then taking the 0 putting in for y. Again, you could technically use your table for this. But so again, I just take 0, put in for x, and I solve. Take 0, put in for y, and I solve. And I get 2 points, and then connect those. And again, my domain and range is all real numbers for those. Now, our last thing that a few of you guys asked me about on your homework was our Vux and Hoi. So Vux, vertical line, x equals. Hoi, horizontal line, y equals. Now, you cannot graph x equals on your calculator, so you do need to remember this. A vertical line has the form x equals. That means x is equal to that number no matter what. So like number 11 here, x equals -2. X is always -2. So I go to -2, I'm going to have x is -2 the whole time. Y can change, but x is going to stay the same there. So that's my vertical line. And then horizontal, that's my Hoi. Horizontal line is y equals, so I see y equals a number. My y is always going to be 3 no matter what. So I go up to y equals 3, and it's always 3. Horizontal line there. All right. I think those are it for our notes. Questions on that before we take a look at our homework answers? So again, our notes for today is a foldable. And so you're going to start off by folding it in half hot dog style. Hold it in half, hot dog style. Hold it in half, hot dog style.
Oh.
So on the one side it has name. Go ahead and write your name in there. This is second period. So when we do our binder, you'll see it says Unit 4A flipbook number 5. So this is number 5 for our binders. We're going to be opening it this way. Okay, so what we're talking about today is slope. So we've so far, just to graph a line, have plotted points and connected them. Today we're going to talk about slope because we're going to eventually use slope to help us graph our lines. So our first little box here says slope or rate of change. And so when you open it up, you'll see the first row has these lines here. Okay, so our notes for slope or rate of change, we're going to write here. So again, for those just picking up their notes now, fold it in half, hot dog style. Hot dog style. We'll see the smart board walkways. Okay, so slope, when we're talking about slope, we're talking about kind of the position of the line. It tells us kind of the slant of it, if it's going to be more steep or less steep. If it's going to be positive or negative, it lets us know the direction of our line. So right now we're just looking at some general examples. They're not on a graph, but just general examples. So for most of our equations, we'll be dealing with these on the right. But we will also have our vertical line and our horizontal line. And so just a reminder, vertical line, that is our vux. Vertical line is x equals. Now we talked about this last class, but we didn't know what slope was yet, so we're going to be addressing it today. But that U stands for slope is undefined. So for a vertical line, our slope is undefined. Meaning we can't write out a slope for it. Now this is a horizontal line, so that's our void. And again, horizontal line is in the form y equals. And we talked about this last class, but this middle one stands for 0. Our slope is 0.
Where is that?
So you have it folded there. Now when you open it up, we're in the first row. Right? Okay, so for a vertical line, our slope is undefined. For a horizontal line, our slope is 0. Now again, we're not going to get this super often. We're more often going to get these ones on the right, but we will have vertical and horizontal lines. Now more often for us, we're going to have them actually slanted some way, one way or another. So our first one that we have here, we can see that as we are going from left to right, it's going up. This is what we call a positive slope. A positive slope. You can think of it, if there's a little person walking from left to right, this little person's going to have to go up. Right? It's a positive slope. Now our other one over here, as we go from left to right, we can see it's going down. That is a negative slope. A negative slope. And again, if there's a person walking from left to right, they're going to have to walk down. It's kind of like going up an escalator and then down an escalator. So again, our slope, the same thing, is talking about rate of change. As x changes, what does y do? As x increases, y also increases, positive and positive. As x increases, y decreases. We get a negative. Now, we're not just simply going to identify what type of slope. We're actually going to graph out our slope. So that's our next one. So again, on the front of our foldable, our next row says I can find slope from a graph. Okay, Okay, so our next row is how we find slope from a graph.
Yeah.
So a graph is given to us, and again, slope is talking about that change, that rate of change. My change in y, change in x. So here's our slope equation. For whatever reason, m actually stands for slope. I honestly don't know why, but m stands. Oh, sorry, I told you first for you. M stands for slope. Now, our equation for slope is this little triangle. Why does anyone know what this little triangle means? It's a delta, and it means change in. Change in. So like change in y, change in x. So this is called delta. It's a Greek letter called delta, but it means change in. So we're just trying to figure out how much did y change, how much did x change. Now what we do is we literally count that from the graph. My y's are up and down. So we call that rise. How much did I go up or down? How much did I rise up or rise down? My x's...
Is that what they got Delta Airlines?
You know, I'm not sure if the Delta airline has anything to do with it. Maybe someone that likes math a lot decided to name it Delta. But yeah, that is the symbol for Delta. Now run, x. X goes left and right. We call that run. How much do we change left or right? So however much you went up or down goes on top of our fraction. How much you go left or right is on the bottom of our fraction. And then that is our slope, whatever fraction we get. Now something to keep in mind here is that we can have negative slopes, right? So if I go up, that's positive. Up is positive. But if I go down, that's negative. If I go to the left, that's negative. If I go to the right, it's positive. Just like on the number line. Left is negative, right is positive. Up is positive, down is negative. Just the same thing as on our graphs. So we do have to keep that in mind when we're counting our slope. So again, we're going to count how much we went up or down, and count how much we went left or right. Now when we do this, we want to do this from a nice point on the graph. And what I mean by a nice point is where it actually sits on or crisscross on that intersection. I don't want to pick this one here because it's in the middle of the box. I don't actually know how much that is. We want to pick a nice intersection here. Okay? So I'm just going to go from one point to another point. It's totally up to you which points you use. So going from one point to the next. I'm going to start here. I go up 1. So I went up, so I went up 1. My slope, n, I went up 1. And then I went to the right 1. So up 1, the right 1. And 1 divided by 1 is 1. So my slope is just 1. Go ahead and grab the notes in between those baskets. And again, it doesn't matter which 2 points you use. I could have chosen different ones. I could have used this guy and maybe this one. You'll still get the same answer. I went up 1, 2, 3. And I went to the right 1, 2, 3. What is 3 divided by 3? Just 1. So you'll get the same answer even if you use different points. So it's how much we go up or down, and then how much we go left or right. Now I went up, so that's positive, and to the right, that's positive. Also, if I look at my line, it has a positive slope from what we were just doing right above it. Right, so my answer in the end should be positive. Okay. Okay, questions with this one before I move on to the next one? So same thing. Now here they conveniently put some dots on the nice points for us, but I want to choose these 2 points because they actually sit on that crisscross. on that intersection. These other ones don't sit nicely on an intersection, and so it's going to be hard to count because I don't know if that's 1/5, 1/3, 1/4. And we like to use whole numbers, not fractions anyway. Okay, so again, my slope is change in y, so how much we go up or down. Now to get over here, I'm always going from left to right. So to get over here, I have to go down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I went down 4, that's -4. Down is negative. Right, when I go down, we do negative. And then I go left to right, and I went to the right, 1, 2, 3. I went to the right 3, so it's a positive 3. Now if you try to simplify this in your calculator will say -1.33333333. We'll just leave it as a fraction. And you can leave it as that improper fraction with the large number on top. You don't have to write it as -1/3. This is what we want, because this is easier for us to calculate. So again, change in y is how much we go up or down, and then how much we go left or right. How much we go up or down, how much we go left or right. We like to say that you have to rise out of bed before you can go running in the morning, right? Because you guys all go for runs every single morning.
Yeah.
Right. But you have to rise up out of bed before you can go running. So rise on top of it. Okay. So that's graph. That's getting our slope from a graph. Any questions with that? Okay. So let's take a look at our next row. So again, on the front side, next we have, I can find slope from ordered pairs or a table. So now is when they're going to make us do some math. Before we're just counting, now we have to actually do some math. So again, open it up, our third row now. Again, this is our slope. And represents slope. And it's still change in y over change in x, but now we have an actual equation for it. So this is an equation you want to remember. This equals my slope. It says y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Does anyone know what these little 2's and 1's mean? Say it again. I didn't know what you said. You used to. Okay, well let's refresh your memory from last year. Yes, we are still reviewing from last year. This just simply means which one am I talking about? My second y minus the first y. My second x minus the first x. Okay, so this is my x and y, x and y. I'm just going to say this is my first x, first y. This is my second x, second y, just because that's what I see. It actually doesn't matter which one you choose, just as long as you're consistent. Okay. So to write out my equation, I always want to say n equals, so I know that what I'm doing is my slope here. And I'm just going to do this equation. So I do y2 minus y1. So here's my y2 minus my y1. So 5 minus 0. Remember, y on top, x in the bottom. Okay. So y2 minus y1, my second one minus the first one. Now my x's. I have 4 minus 0. 4 minus 0. So 5 minus 0, 4 minus 0. Alright, and then we just simplify. What's 5 minus 0?
5.
4 minus 0? 4. And you can use your calculator to double check if it simplifies. This one does not simplify. So that's our slope.
So that's how we found the slope with ordered pairs.
With ordered pairs. So if they were to give me the graph for this, I would see that I would go up 5 and to the right 4. To go from here to here.
But would you using those ones, right?
Using those points.
Okay.
For right now, though, all we're doing is finding the slope. So If they gave me these points on a graph, I would count, I would go up 5 and over 4. But we're not drawing the line yet, but all you would do is connect the dots. Yes, sir. Not always, not always. So let's take a look at number 2. Of course, they have to show us numbers in a different way, right? So this is our function notation. This usually confuses people, so I'm going to rewrite it as an ordered pair like we see here. This is my x value. This is my y. This is my x. This is my y. Again, this is f of x equals our y value. So I'm just going to rewrite it as an ordered pair so it's easier to work with. So my first one I have 4 is my x value, comma, 1 is my y value. And for my second one, I have 6 is my x value, negative 1 is my y value. That's what it looks like as an ordered pair. You are always welcome to rewrite this as an ordered pair. If you're okay doing it in the function notation, that's fine. You can rewrite it as that order. Okay, so same idea. We have to do y2 minus y1, and then x2 minus x1. So my slope equation, n equals. So I'm going to do, I'll go and label these while we're still getting used to it. x1, y1, x2, y2. Remember, it goes xy, xy. Okay, so I do y2 minus y1. So negative 1 minus 1. Y minus 1. And then my x's. x2 minus x1. So here's my x2 minus, here's my x1. So 6 minus 4. Negative 1 minus 1, 6 minus 1. And again, just simplify. You can use your calculator to help you out. Negative 1 minus 1. This is negative 2. Fantastic.
So if you wrote it in the equation.
What's 6 minus 4 give us? 2. Good. Always see if you can simplify it. Negative 2 divided by 2? Negative 1. So here's my slope. So this one's a negative slope. So if I were to graph this, I should see that it goes down because it's a negative slope. If I were to graph number 1, it's positive. I should see it goes up. It's an increase. Okay, questions on 1 or 2?
How would you plot that slope of negative 1? Would it be negative 1 over 1?
Yeah, it's like negative 1 over 1, so you would go down 1 to the right. You could even go back to this and go down to the right. But yeah, both would give you the same. Okay, for number 3, look, they gave us 3 ordered pairs. We only have to use 2 of them for our equation, right? There's only 2. So you get to pick which ones. Totally up to you. I'm just going to go and pick these guys because they're the first 2 X's. So I'm just going to call this my first one and this my second one. So this is, over here I have my x1, x2. This is my y1, y2. Again, if you don't like it in the table, you can write it as ordered pairs. My slope equation. So I have y minus y. y2 minus my y1. So negative 1 minus 2. And then x2, right? x2 minus x1. So x2 is 8. Minus x1, so minus a negative 4. Make sure you don't lose that negative. It's x minus x, so 8 minus negative 4. What does minus a negative become?
Positive.
Very
It's
positive.
12. It'd be negative 3 over 12.
Good, so negative 1 minus 2 is negative 3. 8 plus 4 is 12. And that does simplify down. If I'm punching in your calculators, what does that simplify down to? We want the fraction, not the decimal. So it's negative 3 over 12 simplified out.
-1.
Negative 1/4. Good. Negative 1/4. So again, this is a negative slope. I should expect, if I were to graph this, to see it going down, because it's a negative slope. Okay. So again, with ordered pairs, you do need to memorize this equation. They won't give it to you for the SOI. Won't be super close to your test. It's just y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y minus y over x minus x.
For the SOL though, we're gonna need to like find slope.
Yeah. So you'll have to find slope from the table and from ordered pairs, but you have to know the equation for it.
Oh, it won't give us the equation.
No, it won't be given the equations. Something that you have to store up here.
Am I gonna use it in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to do slope again next year and the year after that too. Okay. So now our next row that we have, I can find slope from an equation. So we've done it so far from a graph where we just counted on the graph. We did it with ordered pairs where we used our slope formula. And now we're going to find our slope from an equation. And this one's pretty nice. So our equation that we use heavily in Algebra 1 is y equals mx plus b. Now, our equations, these are numbers. Oops. Okay, let me orient the board one more time. Third time is maybe the charm. Okay. M is a number, and B is a number. Y is a variable, and X is a variable. So you'll notice in our equation, like number 1, we have Y equals mx plus b. There's a number for M, and there's a number for B. So what M and B represent, M is again our slope, B is our y-intercept. Remember, y-intercept is where it crosses the y-axis. Go ahead and write that in on your notes there. Crosses the y-axis. Just a reminder there for you. So when we are asked to find the slope from our equation, all we have to do is find what our m value is. That's the number in front of x. That's our slope. But we have to first get it in this format where y is by itself in order to find our slope. And I want you to go and write this off to the side because although you won't need to know this for right now, you're going to need it for the near future. This is called slope intercept form. Slope intercept form. Because they give you the slope and the y-intercept. Slope intercept. Okay, so again, all we have to do is solve for y, get y by itself, and then we can find our slope. It's just the number in front of x. Alright, so here's some equations. Now when they're really nice, they've already solved it for you. Awesome. All we have to do is find our slope. Our slope is just simply what's in front of x. So our slope is 2/3.
That's the answer.
That's the answer. When they're asking for slope. So if I had said, what is the slope of this graph? We would say,
Whatever asks for the y-intercept, which would be 5, right?
that's right.
So you can just...
So what we're going to do is eventually we're going to use our slope and our y-intercept to graph the line. That's kind of where we're going with it. So it allows us to plot a point and then use our slope to count, and then we can
Oh,
graph.
so like if we were to graph that, we would plot the first point would be on 5, right? So that's the y-intercept, and go up 2 over 2.
That's exactly it. And you just connect the dots.
And f to x still means y, right?
Yeah, so for number 2, f of x, it's just the same thing as saying y equals negative x plus 5.
The slope is -1 over 1, right?
Yeah, so our slope is again the number in front of x. So make sure y is by itself, it already is. So negative x is the same thing as saying negative 1x. So my slope here is just negative 1. Now you could write negative 1 over 1, but it's not necessary to do so. You can just leave it as that whole number, negative 1.
For the bottom one, we have to solve, right?
We do. So for 3 and 4, y is not alone. So we have to first get y by itself before we can solve, which is why it was important last unit that you were able to get y by itself, because now we need it to find something else.
Maybe 12 minus negative 1.
So we want to get 4y by itself. If I have negative x, how do I get rid of that? Good, plus x. Plus x. So I have 4y, and it's a positive 4, so I'm going to leave it positive. Now, so when we learned this, I told you we always like to have the x first, and this is why, because it's in this format. So we're going to go ahead and keep writing x first. So x is positive, so I keep that positive, and 12 is positive, so I keep that positive. Now y still isn't quite yet alone.
Divide by 4.
I have to divide by 4. So divide by 4. Divide by 4. And I have y equals, remember the same thing as 1x, so 1 divided by 4, just 1/4, x, plus 12 divided by 4, which is 3. So we have y equals 1/4 x plus 3. Now again, all we're simply finding right now is the slope. Our slope is simply what is in front of x.
Or we just call it slope, basically.
So my slope is 1/4. My slope is 1/4. So again, get y alone, and then I can find my slope. Alright, number 4, y is not alone, so we have to first get y alone. So let's see, I have to get this guy alone. I have positive 4x, how do I get rid of it? Good, minus 4x on both sides. I still have negative 2y, so keep that negative there. Can I say 2x here? 6 minus 4 is 2. Can I say 2x?
No, you can't take away a number from x.
Right, they're different terms. They're not like terms, so I can't put them together. So we keep them separate. I like to write the x first. So negative 4x. And 6 is positive, so we're going to keep it positive. Alright, so I have to get y completely alone. Divide by negative 2 on both sides. Make sure you're careful with your signs on your calculator.
You get 2 for that.
Good. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2. I still have x.
And that's
Positive 6 divided by negative 2?
negative 3.
Negative 3. Okay. So here's my equation.
The slope would be 2.
Good. And we want our slope. And our slope is just 2.
And if it differs by itself at any time when we're doing this, we make it into a fraction over 1.
Yeah, when you're going to count your slope.
If it doesn't give us a fraction, it has to be.
Yeah. But when you're just simply saying what it is, you don't have to do that. But when I go to do it on my graph, I would say 2, 1. Okay, so again, we have to get y by itself, and then it's just the number in front of x. I don't write x with it. X is not part of my slope. That's just a variable. It's the number in front of x. Okay, questions with that? Alright, so I'm going to grab some scissors real quick. What we're going to do, and listen very carefully because we don't want to ruin your notes here. So we've got it in hot dog style, right? You're going to cut along here to the crease so that it's a flap. So we're going to basically have flaps so you can open it up and see each piece.
On both sides.
You're only going to cut on one chunk thing. I'll walk you through it. Okay, let me go grab some scissors for you guys to get that. So we should now have our flap. So when you open it up, it says types of slope or rate of change. You open up that flap and it tells you the different types. Close it. I can find slope from a graph. Open up that flap and it tells you how to find slope from a graph. So there's just a different way of organizing it. So we have one last one, the very bottom one. I can find slope of vertical and horizontal lines. So let's go and open up that last flap.
Aren't there sometimes when there's a line that's undefined?
It's not the line is undefined, but rather the slope is undefined.
But it doesn't go up neither down, right?
It's that what happens is we end up we're dividing by 0, and that's not okay. Okay, so our last one here. I can find slope of vertical horizontal lines. Open up our flap. And just a reminder, vertical lines, that's bucks. Vertical lines have undefined slopes. And it's an x equals equation, so like x equals some number. So automatically, as soon as you see x equals a number, you can know the slope is undefined. Every single vertical line is going to have a slope that's undefined. Horizontal lines, that's our poi, have slopes that are 0, have 0 slopes. So I'm just going to write n equals 0. And n is undefined. So again, poi, horizontal line, slope is 0. This is y equals a number. So all horizontal lines have a slope of 0. Alright, so number 1, x equals 3. Is this horizontal or vertical? Vertical. Good. Bucks. It's a vertical line, so my slope is undefined.
That's when it goes up, right?
Yes. So let's take a look at this graph. If I were to do my graph here, x equals 3, 1, 2, 3. Here's my graph. Here's my vertical line. When you go to count out your slope, I don't know. Oh, mine's really slanted. Sorry.
And my hair went down.
So when I go to count out my slope, let's just say this one and this one here. When I do my slope, Anthony, pay attention, please. I go up 1, and I go over 0. I didn't go left to right at all. What's 1 divided by 0? I have 1 cookie to give to 0 people. How do I do that? But there's nobody to give it to. But there's nobody. You can't do that, right? You can't. Let's say I have 10 cookies, and I have an empty classroom. 10 cookies to give to nobody. That's not possible. But then that's 1 person. So let me finish this thought, and then we'll take our break. So if you put in your calculator, I'm going to type into your calculator 1 divided by 0.
Wait, so if it gives us a number like that negative 5, it's a 0 slope.
So what do you get when you type in your calculator?
Error.
Error. That's how you know undefined. Right, now for this one, this is poi, because it's y equals. What is our slope for a y equals? 0. And if we take a look at this graph, let's go to y equals -5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a horizontal line at -5. When I go to do my slope here, let's just use this point and this point. How much do I go up or down?
1.
0. I didn't go up or down at all. And then I go to the right one. If I have 0 cookies to give to 1 person, how many cookies do I get?
This is my 37.
0. And if you put in your calculator, 0 divided by 1 is 0. Alright, go and take your break. We'll be back for Stinger. Make sure you're back on time. I'll then lay the homework out on your desk. So again, your homework's sitting on your desk. It's worksheet 6. That's your homework for next class. Worksheet 6.